some housekeeping things and introduce all of our wonderful speakers. We have the pleasure of introducing Samal Iftikhar, who has been deeply committed to her work in activism and social justice in the community of Nogojiwanong, Peterborough. Currently completing her master's degree at Trent University in education, her research is focused on supporting refugees resettling into Canada and better understanding the barriers newcomers face in the Canadian education system. Samal has also worked in the nonprofit sector for almost 5 years, working in children's mental health, healthcare programming, and childcare. These intersectionalities have led to her deep passion for social justice and creating positive changes in our local community. This is best demonstrated through Samal's involvement around the homelessness crisis in our community, for which she has run multiple fundraisers to raise funds and awareness for the Yes Shelter for homeless youth and families. Samal uses her privilege and voice to amplify the voices of marginalized individuals. Welcome, Samal.
Ani, hello everyone. I'm so excited and honored to have been asked to MC here tonight. My name is Samal Iftikhar, and I'm a Pakistani Canadian residing here in Nogojiwanong, Peterborough. As today is International Women's Day, one thing that is very important for me to acknowledge is that in the past, many events and spaces around activism and feminism were quite reserved for white English-speaking women. While our spaces and this room here today look quite different than just even a few years ago, there is still a lot of work to do, as we've established already tonight. This is why I hope to keep expanding my work to amplify the voices of marginalized individuals whose voices are crucial to making systemic change. And I'm really proud, thank you, to make a seat at the table for myself. At the same time, I'd also like to acknowledge my own privilege being able to stand up here in front of you while thousands of Palestinian women are just fighting to survive tonight. No food, no water, displaced. And while I hear your sounds of joy and laughter tonight, they hear cries for help. We get to enjoy the view of the sky tonight after this, and they get to have the view of the fire. Please remember them throughout tonight and include them in your advocacy and feminism, as they are on the front lines of the liberation struggle. We are far from being finished with our work. We have yet to even complete all our calls to action here in Canada. I ask that as we continue our efforts for a better world for women to live in, you listen. Listen to the Indigenous women, the Palestinian women, the racialized women, the trans women, the non-binary women, the two-spirited women, and all other women fighting for their rights and for those who stand with them. So Janet left. We're going to skip over that one. Miigwetch to the Raging Grannies, to Jocelyn and Janet. It's a pleasure and honor to hold this space with you and listen to the beautiful songs and drumming we've heard. I'd like to now introduce Elder Liz Asawamik, who will be providing an opening prayer for us to begin our event in a good way. Liz Asawamik, Ginny Miigwetch, is an Indigenous knowledge keeper and currently teaches Anishinaabe Moan in the Cheney Wenjack School for Indigenous Studies at Trent University and is president of Anishinaabe Moan Teg. Liz is of the Anishinaabe Ottawa Nation and is of the Beaver Clan and originally from Miigwetch unceded First Nation located on Manitoulin Island. Liz is a Nokomi grandmother and Anishinaabe Medeawenkwe community leader, water walker, an activist, and jingle dress dancer. Originally inspired by the late Nokomi's Josephine Mandabin Ba, she's a leader of the Kawartha Lakes area water walkers under the guidance of her aunt and elder, Dr. Shirley Williams. Welcome, Elder Liz.
Miigwetch. Miigwetch. It's not on. Okay. I'll use my teacher's voice. Okay. Bonjour. Ginumiigwan Digo, Makwaganin Dinuema, Amikto Dem. My spirit name is Ginumiigwan, which is Golden Eagle Feather, and I'm originally from the Beaver clan, but related to the Bear clan. And I'm going to use the prayer, I'm going to use it in my language, my first language that was given to me, and that is Anishinaabe. And so I will start off with that, and I'll translate my prayer. So, aha bujo, Ginumiigwan Digo, Makwaganin Dinuema, Amikto Dem. Miigwetch sema giminagwa we nama mampinangwa. Miigwetch niwing nikia. Miigwetch wabanung. Miigwetch kinage goesh miigwa gegi no odenikia memdige so megaze en alduendang odenikia. Miigwetch odenikia ge jawanong. Miigwetch kinage go odenikia gegi esh miigwe. Miigwetch odenige wawashkesh en alduendang odenikia. Kinage go esh miigwet. Wilnan kina endadine. Minage odenikia epangishmak ngabionong. Miigwetch genin the kit kinage go esh miigwe kodenikia. Emdige so mishkodebje ke minage kina gwaja majajek nongwa. Minage nimki bene sik. E bidot gewe nebe. Miigwetch ge odenikia giwed nong. Miigwetch genin the kit odenikia memdige so makwa. E miigwet ge mishkwezuen mananojman. Nieje kweduan ngwa. Minchinang nangwa wis mshkwezuen. Miigwetch ge mishomes gizes. Miigwetch ge nokmes de gizes ge. Kinage go esh miigwek ensegishak minakina anangokak. Miigwetch dinnim. Mina gumumana. Miigwetch ge in the kit nangwa shkak makwe. Kinage go esh miigwen ensegishak. Miigwetch kina mampi ebezakik a king. Mina kina mitagok. Nonchgego mampi etemgak mekwen mak nangwa oxyjek. Bakadigam gong ajek mina wis migadwin mampi take a king. Nad moshanang de champi nangwa. Kina kweok mekwen mak nangwa sa mandagishgak. Miigwetch shishindikit. So I acknowledge the four directions of the universe to the east, where I acknowledge the eagle. The eagle is the one that flies the highest. He is our messenger to the creator. And so I acknowledge for everything that the eagle provides for us. To the south, I acknowledge that deer that provides clothing and shelter for us. And everything that the deer shows us, like kindness and gentleness. To the west, I acknowledge the buffalo for the same, for the food, the clothing, and shelter. And also for the thunder beings that give us that water that needs to be for the earth to be cleansed. And I also acknowledge for, in the west, we acknowledge those ones that have traveled through that western door. And to the north, I acknowledge the white bear that gives us strength and healing, and that we may get healing and strength that we need each and every day. I acknowledge our grandfather's sun for shining on us each and every day. And to our grandmother moon for shining us in the night, and to all the star realm. I also acknowledge our mother, the earth, Shkakmakwe, for everything that she provides for us, to all the food, to all the plants, to all the trees, everything that gives us medicine that we need to survive. And I also acknowledge the waters, to all the waters in the world, not only in this territory, but all the waters on Mother Earth. So I say Miigwetch, and you know, especially on this day, International Women's Day, you know, but we also think of all those women, like we've had heard here earlier. And so I say Miigwetch for having me here, and Miigwetch for that tobacco that was offered for me to be here. So Miigwetch, and I too have another engagement, so I have to leave right now. So Miigwetch. Okay.
Now, okay, thank you, and Miigwetch to Liz for that beautiful prayer. Thank you so much. Before we begin, just bear with us. We're figuring out the mic issue. It'll just be a minute or two. Thank you, Miigwetch. And I'm going to bring up Sam from KWIC to say a few words for us before we get started. And bear with us with the mic challenge, okay? We're hoping we figured it out now.
Thank you. I do promise can everyone hear me also? I can like yell if needed. I don't need my voice tomorrow. So we did do a dress rehearsal last weekend, or like last week, and like everything was wonderful. The tech was great. We were like, we just need to like plug in and it'll be great. Are we fixed? Hello? Can people hear me? Woo! Okay, we're back. Okay. I think we're good overall. So we will move forward. Change of tone though, because I am actually doing a moment of reflection. So I have to bring it down a level. So Miigwetch, that beautiful opening prayer that we just had, and to starting our event off in a good way. It's been so great having the prayer, having the drum, having the granny speech. But before we dive into our evening of celebrating International Women's Day and listening to stories of inclusion in our community, we want to take a moment of silence for the women, girls, two-spirit, non-binary, and gender non-conforming folks who both here in what is currently known as Canada and around the world are not able to join in celebrating. Gender-based violence, both individually and systemically, happens every day around the world. During this moment of reflection that we'll be taking, we encourage you to think of those existing and struggling under systems of patriarchy, colonialism, imperialism, and capitalism, and struggling under and experiencing displacement and violence due to misogyny, trans-misogyny, climate change, conflict, and genocide. Trans women, Palestinian women, Israeli women, Congolese women, Sudanese women, Ukrainian women, and Indigenous women on Turtle Island and beyond. So please join me now for a moment of reflection. Miigwetch, thank you.
Miigwetch, thank you. I think we all often on days like this have a lot to say, but don't often take a minute to just listen. And so I'm really grateful for that, Miigwetch, and thank you. I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items before I introduce the rest of the speakers for tonight, which we're so grateful to have in the room here with us, some of who I know very personally. Our event is going to run until 7:30 p.m. and we'll be taking a brief 15-minute intermission just after 6 p.m. So you will get a break from me. We have this space rented until a little after the event ends so that organizers and volunteers can clean up after we're done, but we must be out of here no later than 8 p.m., okay? So while we hope you do build connections and you get to chat with everybody around you, we do ask that once the event ends, folks move outside so we can close down on time for the library. There are washrooms located just outside of this room, so you will see signs when you exit through the main doors. Folks attending in person, you'll also notice papers with poetry on your table, questions, and prompts. Don't worry about those for now. We will get to them later with an activity after our intermission. For our online participants, you'll also have to participate. We'll be sending you the same materials via a Zoom chat when we get to that portion of the night. So I'd now like to honor our guests for the evening, starting with Aayna Singh. One sec. Aayna is a passionate advocate for gender equality and is recognized for her extensive involvement in the community as a volunteer, an empowering youth advocate, and an impactful leader. Raised in a family that instilled values of equality, Aayna developed an early understanding of the challenges women and girls face in our society. Determined to make a difference and bring positive change, she pursued advocacy and leadership. Aayna continues to utilize her platform to raise awareness about social issues such as racism, sexism, and gender equality. In her speech, she shares how early experiences with sexism shaped her worldview and led her to pursue her leadership passion as a woman. We also have Jaida tonight, who is a Kichi Sivi Nizi Nadu Anishinaabe youth. She's an Indigenous artist and teacher based here in Canada. She has been teaching and growing in Indigenous knowledges her whole life. She coordinates, creates, and teaches various feeding projects and Indigenous workshops to organizations as a facilitator independently. She also makes and sells custom beaded jewelry. As an artist who is learning and growing, she's always looking forward to teaching and growing in her skills as a beader and facilitator. I'm also very excited that tonight we have Kait Dueck, who I know personally, who was raised as a student of ecology in the woods northeast of Nogojiwanong and is deeply connected and committed to this community and place. They have been the executive director of our Reframe Film Festival here in town, a community celebration of documentary film and media art centered on social and environmental justice since October 2022. An alumnus of the Integrated Arts Program at PCVS, Carleton, and Trent University, and Fleming College. Their formal education has been focused on gender studies, world religions, the arts through a justice-based lens, political repression, and science and environmental and forestry studies. Oh my gosh. No, you are amazing. Kait is an accomplished artistic administrator and volunteer coordinator with over a decade of experience in the field. They also have 20 years worth of experience as a professional performance artist, most notably as an actor and musician. When they're not reframing with us, Kait adores being with their gorgeous family, both 2- and 4-legged, transformative film and literature, being in the forest, and all things bird nerdery. That's the first time I've heard that word, nerdery. We also have the most wonderful Sarah Lewis, she, her, who I'm one of the biggest fans of, who's Anishinaabe, Kwe, Ojibwe, and Cree, spoken word artist, activist, community organizer, and mother, and no stranger to our Nogojiwanong community. She has ancestral roots in Curve Lake First Nation and Puckatawagan. She has served as Peterborough's inaugural Poet Laureate and has been featured on not only CBC Arts, but also global news and stages across the world. Sarah utilizes poetry as an act of resistance, giving voice to Indigenous resurgence, and reclaiming identities, culture, strength, and sovereignty. She encourages aspiring poets to speak their truth and to envision a decolonized society where sexism, the patriarchy, capitalism, and racism do not exist. And with all that, with our wonderful speakers yet to come, I'd like to invite our first storyteller this evening. Please welcome Aayna Singh.
Very much. I got way too excited when she first said my name. I was like, everybody get out of my way. You hear me now? Audible? Okay. Do you want me to repeat my joke? Okay. Louder? Is this better? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin by expressing my gratitude for having the opportunity to stand in a room filled with phenomenal women who continue to shape society positively every day. It is applaud yourselves. It is because of women like you that girls like me look forward to being women. My name is Aayna. I'm 16 years old. When considering which part of my life best spoke to this year's theme of inspiring inclusion, I chose to go back to my roots, to my home country of India, and to the lineage of women I'm a part of. I had the extreme luck of being born to an unconventional and headstrong mother and to be part of a family that prides itself over its long lineage of absolutely badass women. Yeah, my mom's here, so applaud her if you want. I had a highly privileged childhood in more than one way, being raised by women like my mother, my grandmother, and my aunties who consistently taught me to be grateful for what I had. I was always an inquisitive kid, sometimes annoyingly inquisitive, and I was very aware of the behavior of the women that surrounded me, how they uplifted, empowered, and supported each other consistently. And knowing the hardships these women have persevered, I enjoy hearing the stories that empower me and fill me with pride. And I would like to share some of these stories with you tonight. Is that okay? Yeah. I want to begin with my grandmother's story. My grandmother, I call her Nani, is the strongest woman I know. My grandmother's also hilarious, you guys. I was talking to her the other day and I was like, hey, Nani, what's your favorite joke? And she looked at me in the eye and she was like, you. Ouch, guys. I was like, yeah. So my grandmother was born in 1953. She raised 3 amazing women that I love and adore, and she's the grandmother of another amazing woman in the making. That's me. Shameless self-plug. She was married to a wonderful man that I never met, but I've heard stories, and boy, was he a charmer. My grandmother was widowed in 1989, and she raised 3 girls independently through the 90s while grieving, working, what have I written there? Earning, being a sister, a mother, a daughter-in-law, and a lot more. My first question when she told me all of this was, how did you do it? She tells me it was only because of the women that she lived with who supported her through her grief and hardships and uplifted her to new heights. Her mom, her sister, and her mother-in-law. My aunties and my mother tell me that these 4 women built the very foundation of their personalities. I do believe that my grandfather's passing led my mother and aunties to grow up very quickly. I know they matured at the young ages of 10, 8, and 6 into women who understood the concepts of grief, discipline, and support. An incident my mother recounts often is this. On the day of my grandfather's passing, my mother went to her room, collected all the change from her piggy bank, put it in a handkerchief, tied it up, and took it to my grandmother. And she handed her this cloth filled with like $5 worth of change and said, here, Mom, you have this, it'll help. My mother grew up to be a simple girl, raised well, extremely smart. She married, had me, and got divorced when I was a year old. She returned to my grandmother, a divorcee with a girl child, in India in 2008. When she returned, she tells me, she was fully prepared to face backlash from other women in our neighborhood, because divorce is already a taboo in India. But returning to your mother's home with a girl child and no man to support you, catastrophe, apparently. She was ready to be blamed and shamed. And yet, when she returned, nobody said a thing. There was not one negative taunt, not one shade comment behind her back. She too raised me while grieving, working, and evolving. How? Because she too had women to support her mother and her sisters, women supporting women. I firmly believe that society is shaped by women like this, women who understand, uplift, empathize, and include. I can stand here and speak to you today only because generations of women who came before me broke barriers, functioned unconventionally, and were supported by similar women. If it wasn't for a community, a village of women who included my mother and grandmother and empowered them, I would not have the privilege I have now. It is crucial to inspire inclusion because it allows women to stand up, speak up, break societal barriers, and more than ever, it encourages them to include others like them. Organizations like KWIC and KSAC work tirelessly to shed light upon overlooked groups and issues. And it is organizations like these that spark conversation, discussion, inclusion, and empowerment. Today, I stand here as a 16-year-old girl who looks forward to being a woman who inspires inclusion. I aim to be part of a community of women who inspire and include relentlessly. I hope to foster generation after generation that ensures that nobody is left out in our march towards an inclusive and equal society. Thank you.
Miigwetch, thank you so much, Aayna. You have a beautiful way with words, and I think we should have added comedian to the list too when we introduced you. Now I'd like to introduce our next speaker for the evening, Jaida Ponce. Welcome to the front, Jaida.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, it's definitely a different perspective from up here from sitting down there. Okay, well, after hearing the last speaker, it's kind of interesting because I also want to speak to my journey within inclusion and as a woman. And oh, sorry, I will try to speak louder. I'm naturally a soft speaker, but I will try to put on my leadership voice. Is this better? Is it up? Okay, is this better? Okay. So I was just trying to say that I'm going to speak to some of the women in my life as well, who have shaped me to become the person I am. But I think first introducing myself is something I was always taught to do. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. So bonjour, Ani, Kwe, Asigna Kwe Indigenous Cause, Nogojiwanong and Dunjaba, Shike, Minwa, Makwa, Ndodem, what else? Nijminado, Anishinaabe, and Dao. Yeah, so my name is Jaida. My spirit name is Red-Winged Blackbird Woman. My clan is Bear Clan, but for a long time my clan was Turtle Clan, so I was adopted into the Makwa clan, the Bear Clan. So I have relations on my grandma's side, my mom's side that I carry with me, those turtle teachings. I am two-spirit. I'm non-binary. My pronouns are she, they. And I think I want to talk a little bit about my story, where I've gotten to this point in my identity as a woman, as a female, but also in the way I've had to navigate throughout my life and the amazing women who helped shaped me. And so I did not prepare a speech or anything, but I think the first story I kind of want to share is how I started thinking about when I was asked to come here. And the first thing I have always done my whole life is ask my family. And all of my family that raised me is my grandma and my mom primarily. As well, I also asked my partner and my aunts. And yeah, so
I was raised by a lot of strong-headed women as well, who really uplifted me and kind of pushed me into situations to learn that I, at the time, didn't know the teachings that I was gathering, and what purpose I was gathering those teachings for until I, continued on in my learning journey as an Indigenous person. So when I was asking my my partner and my family, oh, I don't know what to say. I'm not sure what I should speak to. And they're like, well, I know I would speak to, but you'll just do good. And something that my partner said to me that I held with me that I wanted to share was, you do great every time you speak. Just speak from your heart. I am also feeling very emotional today. So if I cry a little bit, it's just because I really love my family. Anyways, so speaking to my relationship growing up, I think of my grandma first, who really shaped our family. She grew up without having pretty much anything. She did not have the opportunity to get her high school education. She barely got to have her elementary or middle school education. She grew up in a large family, but moving from place to place, just kind of living on the side of the road, wherever she could live. And when she was young, she gave birth to my mom. And I guess that's where my story starts, with my mom and her. And so through my grandma's journey, she was displaced within her Indigenous identity due to her father, who he fought in World War II. So he had a lot of, I guess, what's the word? He had a lot of trauma that he sustained being an Indigenous man. And so for a long time, he would not identify as such, but he would share stories with my grandma quite often, teachings, little things like that. Every once in a while, he would tell her all sorts of things and have her write it down for him. And so as she got older, she wanted to discover more what that meant for her. And so she started that learning journey, that reconnection for our family to our community. And that's, I guess, how a lot of the teachings that I've and opportunities I've gotten to experience have come to be. So within my grandma, she gave birth to my mom. And so my grandma inspired my mom because she wanted to go to university. She didn't pass her high school, but she went through a program, I guess, to be able to actually take extra classes to get the credits that she needed so she could go to university and start making those connections here in Nogojiwanong, Peterborough. And she met people like Edna Manitowoc, Liz Ozamick, Shirley Williams, all these strong, incredible women who became her friends, but also our family as well. And so my mom, while my grandma was in school, my mom had just given birth to me. And my grandma was like, you know what, you should just come and spend time with us. And so, maybe go to school, figure out what you want to do. And so she's like, okay. At first she thought she was going to be a lawyer, but that is definitely not the path that she ended up doing. And through the work that my grandma, she kept on going. She got her master's, she got her PhD, and she kept on going up and up. And she still works at Trent University. My mom, my grandma was like, you should take Indigenous studies. You should. So she just kept putting little seeds of knowledge into my mom. And so growing up from my perspective, I saw that my grandma came from almost nothing, and she built our family up. And for my mom, she did the same thing. I got to see her go through school, and it really inspired me to do community work. Sorry, I told you I was feeling a bit emotional today. I always think of this same all that I was gifted today to recenter myself. So, all right. So I looked to them and I didn't really know how I fit into that because I was a little bit different than how they identified. I always kind of knew I had different identities within me. You know, I'm bisexual. I always felt very not fit within that women category, but I did fit within it in a way. And so through my own journey, my family, just like my grandma did for my mom, she's like, come to me with work, come and volunteer, come and do community work, you know, and sometimes she's like, we need, I am a very much a giver, just like my family. So I was like, okay, I'll help because you need help. And so they always found ways of trying to get me to come and work and help them and learn about the importance of community and support. And through these different teachings, I got the opportunity, like Anishinaabe, that's something that was really important to them, for me to be able to pick up and learn, because my grandma just didn't have those opportunities. She got displaced. Her whole family got displaced due to what happened. And so for me, I got that opportunity. They tried to give me all the opportunities they were not able to have. And through my journey, I have gotten to a place where I was volunteering. I was doing all these different things. And then I was like, oh, this is so fun. This is really enjoyable. I really love being around community. I really love learning from people. So eventually, as I got older, there became more job opportunities for me to actually work within that. And so I started working with youth, like myself. That's part of my journey. And through that journey, I've got to see, it's kind of weird because I've always looked up to the women in my life. I've always looked to them for advice. And so when I started doing this work, I kind of never really expected that I might become an inspiration to other youth, and be able to create this safe spaces that I might not have had, or my grandma definitely wouldn't have had, or my mom. And so like even the youth who was just up here before speaking and having an amazing speech, which I wish I had went through creating one a little bit more formal. But I was just thinking the whole time, I was like, it's so amazing to see what our youth are doing. And I wear a lot of hats in my life. I became a busybody just like my family. I am an auntie. I am a beater. I've been trying to pick up all these different types of teachings. I'm a teacher, teach to different communities who don't, you know, I was always taught you have to share your gifts, find your gifts and share them to others. And those teachings are not just yours, they're for others. And that's something that I really value and try to pass on. And so all the different youth and identities that I've seen and leaderships that I've seen inside them picking up their gifts has just been so instrumental that I never really thought I'd be able to inspire that kind of changes within youth. Sometimes you see just a little bit just over one workshop, or not just youth. I also work with all ages, but I just share and love, and I learned that from the women in my life. And so like I mentioned at the beginning of my story here, when I was thinking of coming here, and I asked my family, what should I speak to? And my aunt chimes in, and she like FaceTimes into my grandma every single day because she doesn't live right there, but she can't help it. We're such tight knit. And she's like, well, you know what? You inspire me every single time that you teach me something new. And I was like shocked a little bit. I didn't know how to take that because I had never thought that I was inspiring them too. And so I tried to take that in, and I tried to remember that within being a woman, within being two-spirit, within my own identity as an Indigenous youth, as an Indigenous person, I'm constantly having these opportunities to be inspired and to, I guess, inspire others as well. And that's something that I'm learning to try to take in as well, because it's still a very foreign thought. But I guess it goes to show that sometimes just showing up to these kinds of events, talking to each other, and just starting to within your own learning journey can really empower you in your own person. And so for me as a female, as someone who's learning to hold all parts of my identity, that's been a struggle but through my art and my beadwork and community work that I do, I find that that's really where the important work is. It's important for us to stay together. It's important for us to work towards, just like I love my grandma, I love my family, to share that love to each other, to create those spaces just like this event, where we're able to just chat and really, I guess, come together on these important times, especially right now where there's a lot of things dividing many people. And yeah, so trying to think if there's anything else I really wanted to say. But yeah, I guess to Miigwetch for allowing me to speak. I hope I'm not, I don't know if I was running over time, so awesome. Okay, that's some of my stories. I'm a rambler, so
Miigwetch, and thank you, Jaida. We're so grateful to have you bring your gift of sharing here tonight and your inspirational story. Okay, so I think you guys might be getting a little tired. So we're just gonna take a 10-minute break, just because we are running a little past time. So 10 minutes, please get up, stretch, get some food. There's lots of food. If you're hungry, we know we're going into dinner time. And then we'll come back together for our next speaker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have no problem being loud on a microphone. Okay. If everyone could make their way back to their seats, I promise you we have an activity that involves chatting and getting to know one another soon. But we've got another speaker, and I'm going to let Samal take it away. So if everyone could please get back to your seats, grab your snacks.
Clap once if you can. Clap twice. Clap 3 times. Thank you. Can you tell I work at a childcare organization, by the way? Okay, can you guys please, if you can, just return back to your seats? We're going to go ahead with our next speaker. Thank you so much. Okay, so get excited because we have our next speaker coming up, Kait Dueck. Welcome, Kait.
See what we can do here. I'll actually need this or not, but good evening, everyone. I wanted to start by thanking KSAC and KWIC so much for building this wonderful event, and Sam and Jocelyn in particular. What a lot of work you have put into this. Pardon me. And Sarah, thank you very much. My name, as mentioned, is Kait, and I am a bird nerd. I am an actor. I'm a settler. I'm an auntie. I'm a student of local ecology, and I do identify as a woman. Professionally, I have the privilege of being the ED of Reframe Film Festival, which is a community celebration of documentary film that is centered on social and environmental justice. Yeah. Reframe's work is, in essence, about sharing stories. Through the sharing of stories, we also strive to foster connection and to inspire action around intersectional issues of injustice. A well-told story can change the world. As people, we have been sharing stories as long as we have been communicating. Storytelling is a path to education, to the building of empathy, to the creation and transmission of cultural values. And storytelling is one of the most fundamental ways we seek to make meaning of our lives. Watching a documentary can be an incredible journey through the stories of real people, through which the stories of real people come to life for an audience. Documentaries have a unique power to spark a sense of close connection to a film's subject, to disrupt misconceptions, to awaken powerful emotions, illuminate new perspectives, and generate empathy, that most crucial fuel for meaningful action and transformative change. But whose stories are being told? Who are they being told to? And who is doing the telling? We live in a local and global context of colonialism. Centuries of colonization have set the stage for the erasure and retelling of Black, Indigenous, and people of color stories on a worldwide scale. At the same time, the colonial process has led the intentional destruction of the storytelling practices of colonized people around the world. In terms of class, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and ability, the social and cultural forces that have prioritized certain lives over others are complex, involving systems of patriarchy, capitalism, and other manifestations of oppressive power. These oppressive systems have long been present in documentary filmmaking. Early colonial and ethnographic documentaries portrayed non-Western cultures through a lens of exoticism and superiority, reinforcing colonial power structures and perpetuating ideas of Western dominance. Documentaries have often failed to accurately represent the experiences and perspectives of marginalized communities, particularly BIPOC communities. This lack of representation has perpetuated stereotypes and contributed to the erasure of diverse voices and stories. Class and economic disparities in documentary filmmaking can perpetuate the myth of meritocracy and downplay systemic barriers faced by marginalized communities. Documentary filmmaking has also been dominated by cis male voices, resulting in a lack of representation and opportunities for women and people of marginalized genders, both behind and in front of the camera. Even if the stories on screen are about injustice or oppression, if they are not told by the voices experiencing the injustice, the story may ultimately serve to maintain the status quo. At Reframe, there are several central questions that we ask ourselves when selecting films to program at the festival. We ask who is telling the story and whose voices are given the most space. We ask about the nature of the relationship between the film's creative team and the subjects or issues raised in the film. We ask if the work advances the capacity of communities to document and share their own stories, and if the documentary centers the voices of communities that are often marginalized, misrepresented, and repressed. This line of inquiry has led us to the goal of programming work from filmmakers and creative teams whose lived experiences are rooted in the communities that they are representing in their work. At Reframe's recent 20th anniversary festival, our very brilliant creative director, Erin Lidster, yes, thank you, brought our community dozens of compelling stories which centered marginalized voices in the seat of the storyteller. In Clean, we heard from filmmaker Miranda Stern, who shared her own experiences with addiction and its pervasive stigma. We saw Homecoming, where filmmaker Suvi West explored the stolen objects of her Sami ancestors, and we journeyed with her to their reclamation. Kurdish filmmaker Kordo Gzowski brought us Ali Hopa all together, which brought to light the plight of the stateless people of Kurdistan. In Orlando, trans critic and curator Paul Preciado shared a challenging and joyful look at the nature of contemporary trans life. In Is There Anybody Out There, filmmaker Ella Glendinning explored what it takes to love oneself fiercely despite the pervasiveness of ableism. Perhaps the greatest gift of Reframe 2024 was the opportunity to premiere Curve-like storytelling, 6 new documentary shorts created by proud and diverse members of Curve Lake First Nation. Powerful storytellers Sarah Lewis, who is here tonight, Miigwetch Sarah, along with Carol Taylor, Marilyn Knott, Missy Knott, and Jonathan Taylor, and Marg Knott, poignantly shared their Anishinaabe knowledge and masterful storytelling to build community and relations, and we were all transformed. I am so grateful to Erin and our programming advisory committee for being so caring and critical in their programming, for asking such hard questions of themselves, and for bringing our community stories that center the voices we most need to hear. I hope we can all carry this work of making space for underrepresented voices and the deep and important work of learning to listen more deeply. I hope that we can take the time to investigate the content we consume so readily and ask ourselves who is telling the story, whose voices are being given space, and who is benefiting from the telling. I believe that supporting a more diverse group of storytellers in their good work to share their own stories with a more diverse group of audiences will lead us to the critical ability to empathize more authentically with one another and see each other as equally human. When we view each other as inherently equal, when we engage in authentic moments of connection denied to so many throughout history, then we can earnestly confront injustice and oppression. It is through this lens of mutual understanding that we can identify the necessary cultural and individual transformations that are needed to build people who care for the more than human world and who care for one another. Thank you.
Miigwetch, thank you, Kait. Can you tell why I love her so much now? And also, thank you, Kait, because you also showed us why we need Reframe so badly in our community to tell stories often not allowed in the spotlight. With our focus on the power of storytelling for this year's event as our way to inspire inclusion, we wanted to not only have our amazing speakers share their stories and experiences, but also give them the opportunity for building community connections with everyone who's here tonight. On your table, you'll find a sheet of paper with some prompts and questions we came up with to help us learn more about one another and spark some really important conversations. For those of you joining us virtually, we'll also post the questions in the chat for you. If you're sitting with folks you don't know in the break room, this can be a great way to meet new community members. We know it's difficult. And for those who do know each other, it's just a great way to know even more insights about one another. We want to highlight that everyone has a story of their life, their experiences, stories they're passing down through generations. And I think we really showed that through a lot of our storytellers who came up here. Feel free to pick any of the prompts to answer. You don't have to do them all. You don't all have to answer at the same ones either. You can answer them all if you want, or go off topic and talk like we all do all the time about interesting things. This is not a homework assignment. If anyone at the table is also not comfortable answering a question or just listens to others and that's what you're comfortable with, that is okay. We're going to do this activity until about 7:05 before we wrap up tonight's programming with our very final guest of honor, Sarah Lewis. And we'll have our volunteers and other event organizers going around to join us in the conversations now as well. Okay, go for it. Did by you and every used to share. Oh, okay. Right at the end. So on that note, it was an honor to have all of you here, and we are coming to the end of our event. So I'm sorry to everyone this is recording for now. To say goodbye. We want to say Miigwetch and thank you to every single person who came out either here in person tonight or online on Zoom. We've shared our event sponsors and community partners on the slideshow a few times, and we can't thank these folks enough for letting us host these amazing events. We want to extend our thanks to the library for this wonderful space and all the work they do, and all of their help in making our dreams for this space come true tonight. To all of our speakers, poets, storytellers, drummers, you are all so wonderful, and it's been such a pleasure to be able to work alongside all of you and hear your voices and stories. To everyone here who attended, we hope you've enjoyed yourselves and have used this event as an opportunity to build community with one another. We know there's not enough of these spaces all the time for us. We're fortunate to live here in Nogojiwanong, where the power of community and connections with one another is felt throughout. Again, thank you. And any leftover food that's here, we encourage folks to grab. And if not, there is something going on outside that we will donate to after as well, for people with addictions. So take anything if you need it. We'll donate the rest to people in need in our community, and have a really great evening. Thank you.